Why do people fail the individuation process towards self-actualization? Mostly, it is down to because they have been duped. People fall into the trap of what is called spiritual bypassing by people who peddle pseudo-spiritual ideas, or mostly just spiritualism in general. Now, what is this? What is spiritual bypassing? This is the tendency to use or be sold spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks to make life's difficulties more palatable, more easy to deal with, while also stroking the individual's intellect to make them ignorant and blind to their own faulty perception of themselves through pride by feeling smart with ideas of false wisdom. It most often occurs, if not always, as I've seemed to observed, when people adopt a new age self-help mindset. A certain way of looking at oneself in relation to the world, and it is usually a mindset based on a view of irresponsibility, which is why something like spiritual bypassing happens to begin with. So how does this actually happen? New age gurus come along onto the scene, as they do with, like YouTube, influencers, all of this type of stuff. And they sell you esoteric ideas, occult ideas that are wrapped up in a so-called form of secrecy, secret knowledge, all of this type of stuff, that only they claim to understand, in which they can unreveal or reveal to you specifically. They then talk about these idealistic, temptative ideas of enlightenment, chakras, Christ consciousness, crystal healing, third eye energy, manifestation, unity consciousness, blue ray starseeds, etc. It's all over the place, right? But the one thing that all these occult ideas have in common is that they all tell you one singular message that relates to all of them. They tell you a message of what you want to hear, but not of what you actually need to hear to develop as an individual. All of these empty ideas promise you a shortcut to salvation, as they would sell it. A shortcut to everlasting happiness without doing anything actually real, like a shortcut to purpose or something like this. It is no wonder why people get, so mesmerized by the occult. New age occultism concepts promise you never-ending self-validation as well. That you're all good. There's nothing wrong with you, that you don't need to improve upon yourself. The opposite of true self-reflective capacity and developed discernment that an individual needs to develop to actually improve their lives. As long as your vibrations are high at all costs, then, that's all that matters, right? That's kind of the way in which they portray it to you. The ideas themselves take over the mind, the autonomy and the authenticity of the individual's capacity to even think critically about what they are being told. As if the mystical, provocative language that they use, the linguistical skills that they use, lures them into a world of irresponsible utopian fantasy, and while being ignorant to the reality of the true world right in front of them, with regards to themselves and what they can actually do in the real world through pragmatism, through practicality. The way that I believe they keep you in this deceptive loop, this kind of like narcissistic spiritual loop of cultish behavior, is one, they give you nuggets of esoteric secret information first. This information creates intrigue, of course, to the mind of the individual, while acting as a toxic cycle of repetition whereby you keep going back to this specific guru for more information to temporarily gratify your desire for the truth. But the trick is, they will never give you the actual truth. They will instead make you addicted to the idea of the occult. They will make you believe that there is always more information. There is always more secrets to be revealed of the world, so that you can always become a more, higher dimensional being, to be above the lower vibrational people of this world, so that you can, you boost your ego, you become a higher individual, and all this type of stuff. And that is ultimately, this is basically the construction of a cult. Most cults are always wrapped up within an aspect of spiritual mysticism by a charismatic speaker. You have to have the charismatic person there so that they can throw this desire of intrigue into your face. And in the process of that, they hold back the truth so that you come back for more. And even in the process of this kind of spiritual grooming, they kind of love bomb their victims' egos with the idea of spiritual self-acceptance, spiritual self-love, self-validation. They tell them that they are perfect just as they are, while at the same time offering them open-ended, empty, amoral spiritual ideas for them to latch onto, so that they incorporate those ideas fundamentally into their own self-identity, so that they become part of the idea itself, and part of the delusion, part of the ideology, the agenda that they are being sold. That's basically how it works. So of course these spiritual ideas, makes the individual feel good, love for love's sake, all of this kind of stuff about themselves as they already are. Believing that simply knowing, and there's another thing, that if you simply believe and accept this secret knowledge, it frees you from all suffering, it frees you from all pain, or something like this. With the New Age, it is always necessary within anything that is New Age, that they completely disregard and reject anything and everything that holds truth, principle, and wisdom, basically. Anything that encourages or offers methods to the real act of self-improvement, morality, principles, self-awareness, discernment, anything like that, because if they give you those real methods, if they give you those real techniques and perspectives of real self-developmental ways of looking at your life to actually improve your actual life, they wouldn't be able to be your guru. That people would simply learn from the person and move on as they should. The guru has to constantly tempt you back in so that you never leave. It's like a toxic kind of cycle. And basically, if someone was actually genuine, if these gurus are actually genuine, you would learn the wisdom, you'd move on from your life, and you wouldn't keep listening to these individuals, and then people would simply move towards what that person actually needs to go on towards themselves. They would apply the wisdom that they have learned and move on to the next best thing of themselves, which would be to individuate, using the wisdom in application to their individuation process. That's what should happen. But this is why people fail the individuation process, because there are too many deceptive people out there like this, trying to deceive you and trap you into bypassing what is actually important about your life that you need to face first. What requires attention towards your needs and practical real life advice based in pragmatism and proactivity, for instead fancy, esoteric ideas full of false promise, ignorance, and deception. And this is why I'm hosting my webinar on the 2nd of November, which is all about demystifying this whole individuation process, because there's so many people online, YouTube, all sorts of spiritual New Age gurus that go on about individuation, unity consciousness, all this crap, right? And my aim is to completely demystify, break it down into digestible pieces, what the actual individuation process is, so that people can actually apply these methods of practicality into their life instead of being told all of this spiritual nonsense that doesn't mean anything. And there's so much of that on the internet, and there's so much of that within even psychology. It's absolutely bizarre. So what I'm doing is I'm holding an event called Unlocking the Mechanics of Individuation. It's on the 2nd of November, and it's going to be a live webinar event. And the purpose of it is to completely demystify the individuation process, give you practical advice as to what it is, how to do it, and the best way to approach it in relation to overcoming fears, building your self-esteem, developing courage, how to confront these problems, getting scientific backed up research and comparatively looking at it from mythological tropes and mythological archetypes, so that there is a blend of reality and mythos, things like that. That's what this webinar event is all about, and I put a lot of time into it. So if you are ever interested in participating and joining, I'd very much appreciate it. You can find a link in the description down below. So, if you've been supporting this channel for a long time, very much appreciate it. It'll definitely be worth your time. Not going to be selling you any bullshit with regards to spirituality or new age crap. It's going to be very much real stuff, real practical methods, advice, perspective within this webinar. So if you're interested in that, guys, make sure to check out the link in the description. Share this video about if you found it insightful, and I'll speak to you in the next one.